couldn't even figure out her passcode so I could delete the text.
I think there's a little more to this story, isn't there?
You think I caused the blood on the wall? You think that I'm even capable of...
I don't know what to think anymore.
I remember falling in. Being pulled under like I was drowning.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Collider Interviews YouTube channel. We're doing a 1-2 punch today. I have Spencer MacPherson on the show, who is just like having an epic, I was about to say an epic March, but it's been going on for a couple of weeks right now. We're talking about The Way Home and also School Spirits, both of which are like truly exceptional. Like, not only do you have like so much work right now, but it's good top tier work. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it.
The obsession with these shows is real and it's a problem. And I will definitely give you some interrogation style questions in a moment. But I did want to start with something like a little broader that kind of connects both shows together, because someone behind the scenes right now knows this. I said this during one of my previous The Way Home interviews. I'm embarrassed about how long I was watching both shows side by side, and I didn't know it was you in both shows. And I think it does speak to like how damn good you are in both roles. So, I mean, huge congratulations on that. But the question that pertains to it is, can you tell me something specific about, preparing for and doing The Way Home, and also something specific about preparing for and doing School Spirits that makes both of them like an entirely unique performance experience for you?
Great question. There's so many things that are rushing into my head. I mean, with the way we shoot School Spirits, for all the close-ups, the eye line is always like right on the matte box. So that's a real challenge. And with The Way Home, you get to do all your coverage with the other actors, and that kind of, I think, is like real. It's interesting both ways, and it's stylistic choices, but that kind of changes the way you approach everything. But I guess it all kind of just comes down to dissecting the amazing scripts that they write, and yeah, that's what it's all about. But yeah, I'm such a fan of both shows.
I'm going to dig into The Way Home first before School Spirits, but I will just say the eye line in School Spirits is always something that fascinates me. Do you find that more difficult, or I guess did it take some serious adjustment to basically like almost looking right down the barrel?
Yeah, it's a trip. Like, it definitely I don't know if I'm used to it yet either. And like a lot of the other actors on the show, I know Ian Tracy, who plays my dad in School Spirits, is he's always like, oh, I forget how to do this every time. And it's like a big part of, I don't know, a big part of acting in my mind is like, reacting and being present with whoever you're doing the scene with. So sometimes it's difficult to have chemistry with a matte box, but
You all do it really well, and it's such like an effective visual choice for that show. I absolutely love it. All right, kicking off with a whole bunch of questions about The Way Home. I did want to start with some bigger, broader ones before I basically like pick apart the entire finale and ask for some tease questions. So the first big question I had for you, given how much Jacob has evolved from season to season, is what would you say is the biggest difference between how you pictured him when you first took the role and where he is now at the end of season 3?
There's such a journey he went on through season 3. I think I didn't anticipate quite how broken he was, and how capable he was of some of the things he does in the back half of the season. And so that was really interesting to read it, because there's almost like a villainous turn for him for a moment there, and I didn't know that going into it. So I think that was a really interesting thing to get to play and figure out and understand how like someone from that time would justify actions a lot differently than how we would. So not to judge him necessarily for some of his wrongdoings.
Oh, I have questions about that. But before I get to some of those very specific decisions, another thing that I was curious about, and I don't know if this is the way you like to work as an actor, but because Jacob has experienced just like so much of his life back in the 1800s that we still haven't experienced, I was wondering if you like to do any backstory work. And I'll also preface this question by saying, like, you don't know every detail, and there's always a chance that the showrunners could throw something at you that would change whatever's in your mind right now. But is there anything about his past that maybe you've come up with on your own? We don't necessarily see or hear about it directly in the show, but it's just something that you hold especially tight to, and we can at least feel informing your performance right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like this. There's a lot of subtext in certain scenes that they don't really dive into, but I think that Jacob's probably, he's had to do a lot of bad things in his time. I wouldn't be surprised if he'd had to like take a life or something like that. I mean, him and Thomas were bad dudes, and yeah. So I think that there's kind of an undercurrent to him throughout the third season that like we've let this puppy into our home, and like we don't really know. But, he's a stray. Maybe he'll bite. Like I don't know. Like yeah, I think yeah. But like you said, with TV in general, you don't really know. You know what A is, but you don't really know what B and C is. So you got to kind of leave things open sometimes. So that,
It's a fascinating situation to be in as an actor. I feel like I could say this because when it comes to School Spirits, this other show is also on Paramount Plus. I keep thinking about that with Yellow Jackets because we have the two time periods and there's so much that happened in between. But like you can't ask the present day cast anything about that because like technically they don't know, but they have to act like they know. It's such a weird puzzle to me.
yeah, they're fantastic on that.
So good. All right. I feel like now is when I'm going to start interrogating you. I'm going to jump to episode 9 of The Way Home first because you've already brought up that he does some not so great things this season, and I was curious, what was your very first reaction when you read that script and found out what he wanted to do to Lewis Goodwin's vineyard, and also how he would treat Danny in that situation?
Oh my gosh, and I love I love Danny as a character, and it's that scene particularly was really tough when he's like manipulating him, and it's sad to see, and you don't want to judge the characters you play, but it's just like really it's a difficult turn and road for him to go down. I remember being really like reticent to go for it while we were shooting. There was that scene where Kat and Jacob sort of Kat explains that she was slightly responsible for Colton's death, and Jacob has to react to that, and it's not a long scene, and he kind of has to have this really seismic shift. And in the original version, he like shoves her into the water, and he had to go like, and I was like, I don't know if I can. We kind of I talked about it a while and turned it into like he retches away and then she kind of falls, because that would be just like a Jekyll and Hyde moment. But they're so cool at kind of playing with the scenes on the day and figuring out kind of the temperature. But there was no real. I couldn't pull away, I guess, from what he does in the 9th episode at all, and that was difficult to find a justification. We want to love Jacob because of Remy and kind of what he's been through and everything, but yeah, those are really fun scenes to play.
It's so hard watching characters that I love, like, be bad and make mistakes, but if the characters aren't fallible, then they're not interesting and they're not real, so I always have to remind myself of that when I get disappointed in certain decisions they make.
Same. I just want every scene to be like when Jacob's at the bar, or Jacob's cracking wise. Like
I wanted to see more of Jacob have some fun at the bar.
right. Season 4, knock on wood.
Yeah, really. So the other thing that kind of ties to that moment that I wanted to hit next, it's kind of later in episode 9, is when Andie swoops in and stops you from doing it, because like I've seen some fiery scenes from her in the show, but like that's like an especially frenetic moment and she's just like yelling at you. I guess the question is, what is it like being the person who has to like take the anger Andie MacDowell is exuding in that moment?
Well, I mean, for one, I adore Andie MacDowell.
Mm-hmm.
Such a huge fan of hers. and it's absolutely terrifying because she is so good, and she was given it 150 on that. That was the last scene of the night, and I was like, oh, it's you don't want to be on the receiving end of her wrath, I guess. But she's fantastic in that scene and in the show.
I can't tell if you don't wanna be on the other end of that wrath or it's like the highest acting honor to
So
be on the
actually,
other end of it.
it was kind of a rush, I must say. I was like, oh my god, Andie MacDowell's yelling at me right now. Like,
I feel like you gotta wear that with a badge of honor. So, jumping to the finale now, um, here's like I guess this is like a little more of a theory question, but these are the types of things I find myself harping on. How much do you think that Jacob's conversation with Danny in that episode impacted his decision to leave at the end of the finale episode? Do you think he still would have come to that same conclusion even if Danny had been more forgiving of what Jacob did with his code?
well, I love Danny's reaction for one, that he doesn't let him off the hook. I think it's a culmination of a lot of things. There's a scene, I'm not sure if it made it in to the episode, where Jacob discovers all the letters. Was that in there? Okay.
We got the letters.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that he just feels like everything he touches crumbles and is broken. And he's got this like Edward Scissorhands kind of vibe to him, where it's like maybe he's just better off in the castle on the hill. Like, so I think there's so many in the final episode. He's just facing the consequences of his actions, and that scene with Danny, it's so heartbreaking because you can tell he wants a specific result from it, and I think it's just a testament to how good the writing is that, and it's just a real reaction for him to have to sit in that.
Mhm. It's hard to watch. I, like, wanted him to let him off the hook, but it is important to hold each other accountable for our actions. Speaking of which, the fans of the show have a lot of opinions on the choice to or at least want to burn down the vineyard, and also his choice to leave at the end of the season. I guess what would you say to a hardcore fan who is super disappointed in him that he would choose to do those things?
Oh well, I mean, I don't know what I would say. I'm so like petrified of seeing a lot of the comments about the show, but I would say that the writers know what they're doing, and it's I think it's just powerful storytelling. I think um, if everything's nice and easy and wrapped in a bow, we might miss the Jacobs of our stories, the people that kind of stir up the drama. But yeah, I'm probably in the same boat as a lot of the fans because I also don't understand some of the things at times, but
Yeah, I understand that, and I have a feeling you don't know much about what is to come. And by the way, I didn't even say this. Congratulations on the renewal too. That is a very very big deal, very well earned.
thank you so much. I cannot wait.
That
Yeah.
is a wonderful thing. Before I get to maybe some like again theory type questions that could tease what's to come for him, another scene I really wanted to focus on, and a scene partner I wanted to ask you about was Vaughn, because you two get a really great scene in this finale episode that I loved. I guess first, when you first read that script, I guess why to you as the actor playing Jacob did it feel like the right moment in the show for him to finally have a face-to-face conversation with Casey?
I think he's at such a low in that moment in the story, um, and coming into contact with Casey's character really kind of throws him off balance in a sense, and he's also in a place where he's like willing to accept sort of what they're presenting. Um, but yeah, I love that scene, and I love Vaughn. They're so incredible in the show, and their character just has so much mystery
Mhm.
surrounding them, and I just yeah, that scene was really really fun to make.
That's the next thing I want to lean into with Vaughn is just working with them as a scene partner and apologies, I'm going to ramble here, but it's such a fascinating conversation to have. And what I have to imagine is a really unique acting challenge because you both have to be really present in the moment, but it's also kind of like they're speaking in code at the same time. So I don't know, I guess, how did the two of you work together to juggle those layers that both have to exist?
Yeah. Well, they're incredible. We had Grant directing, who really kind of helped us find a bunch of different kind of reads on the scene, and I think that they managed to blend takes together in a really interesting way. And it's also kind of just cool seeing us on screen together because I hadn't really realized how much we look alike.
Did
When I see the coverage, I'm like, whoa!
did the fans alert you to that too after the fact? There's a lot of theories about that right now.
Yeah, I have my own theories as well. I just don't want to I don't want to say too much.
Okay. No, that's fair enough. I'll respect that to a degree. Here's where I'll start to teeter into end of season 3, maybe where his headspace is at going forward. And this particular question that I jotted down was inspired by one of Colton's lines in this final episode. At this point in the show, so at the very end of season 3, do you think Jacob would call the pond a gift, a curse, or a mixture of both?
Yeah, he was pretty steadfast in it being a curse. I I would have to say he sees it as a curse. It's brought him so much pain, torn his life away from him. Um, and I think whenever I see scenes with Sadie or even with the '70s cast, it's I love the pond. It's such a magical thing, and it brings so much connectivity, and understanding the past helps you understand the present, and it's beautiful. But Jacob might be the one exception to the rule. um, yeah, yeah. But that being said, it did allow him to see Elijah again, and Susanna again, and all of his mates. So I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like in my mind at least, I was like, he's in cursed territory at that point, but hopefully he could see the beauty of all he's gotten to experience eventually.
I would love for him to conquer that fear and become a time traveler
Hmm.
in season 4, but we shall see.
I am quite eager to see some of that. I guess this is where I'll go from here. What would you say is your biggest burning question about either Jacob or the story in general that you would most want to see answered in a 4th season?
Hmm. Great question. Hmm. Well, I need to know more about Casey.
Yes.
I that's like paramount in terms of my list. Um, I also I really want to know where they'll go next. Because there's so many. We've discussed like different eras that we would love to go to, and I mean I've loved the Roaring '20s. Like the idea of a bunch of like Canadian actors like going like, "Hey, listen here, see, so many rights, you'll be begging for a left, right? Like, put them out." That would be just like a great like thing to just stumble into.
I feel like I could I mean, from the viewer perspective, we don't know where he goes. I could totally see him going back to the 20s. I don't know why the pun would feel the need to put him there, but
Right, yeah. I guess at a certain point there needs to be justifications. I'm trying to think when would Fern have been?
oh, that's a good call.
Maybe there's something to tackle there.
I feel like I can't do math on the spot real quick, so
Right.
that might make no sense at all, but I just like this idea.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's flip it.
All right.
Let's get Alex and Heather and Marley.
I feel like they could make sense of literally any idea, so I'm gonna will that to go in their direction. Here's another theory type question for you. Given where he lands at the end of season 3, who do you think Jacob would have the most to gain from in season 4 if he got the opportunity to spend more time with that character?
I gotta say Colton. Yeah, and I love Jefferson Brown so much, and I'd love for Jacob because he kind of got that vicariously through Elliot, explaining things, and that their bond was really beautiful at the end of the season, in my opinion. But I'd like for him to really get his last 10 minutes with Colton and get some closure there. I think that I think that if Jacob went to therapy, like that would be his big breakthrough. It's like I feel like that's where a lot of things stem from, is his um, lost relationship with his father. So yeah, I would love for him to get that.
I think that makes all the sense in the world, and that's probably the right answer to that question, but all I can think about is, like, now I want Jacob and Elliot to jump in the pond and, like, have a little bar night in the 1920s and just see how that goes.
Yeah, no, that'd be yeah, yeah. A little speakeasy. Yeah.
Yeah, I would absolutely love that. All right, at this point, I'm going to shift gears to school spirits. It's just like such a jarring change. Both shows ended at the same time. Both shows are great, though, and I am so curious about both mysteries here. So, jumping to that show, one of the first scenes that I really wanted to ask you about was the conversation Xavier has with his dad when. I mean, as an audience, at least, we don't get to see the full conversation, more the after the fact, but it's basically where he's telling him everything he's learned about, like, what happened to Maddie and the existence of ghosts. And I feel like for any teenager out there, it's just so hard to reveal any type of realistic secret to their parents. So I guess, what was it like finding the right tone for Xavier to deliver that kind of information to his dad?
Well, so we did shoot a front part of that scene
I
that
had a
didn't
feeling.
in the episode, and I didn't. So I was, but that kind of, I think, fleshed things out a little bit. But with Hannah, we worked on um, a tone for that scene that I'm not sure anyone will really get, but it's like essentially throughout that scene, there's three distinct chunks of dialogue Xavier delivers, and the three different tactics he uses to connect with his dad are actually mirrors of conversations from season one. So the first tactic, he can't meet his gaze. That was a big choice in season one. Xavier can't really look his dad in the eyes, and his posture's kind of like like back and whatever. And then the second is a mirror of at the end of season one when he's at the police station and he gets really hot with his dad and he's yelling at him. The second one, Xavier, he becomes fire, whatever. And then the third is the evolution of Xavier, his vulnerability that he's learned throughout season two, and he kind of just really like looks in his eyes and connects with him. So I thought that was just a cool like visual like representation of Xavier's growth throughout the show in that little scene.
Oh, I love that, like, that layer of thought to it too. That was also one of the like, I always notice this in the show, the idea of looking at the map box and basically right into the lens. But like, both of your delivery towards the tail end of that scene, it's like, I don't know, like I can feel you two looking at each other in the most important way for like a father to see a son and a son to see a father. And it was just such a powerful moment.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I loved that scene. I loved how it turned out. And that's such an interesting relationship too, I think, to like something between a father and a son. I don't know. It really hit me here. Yeah.
It was that scene, and then also the conversation he has with Maddie's mom. Now I can't remember if it's before or after, where it's like they're having not a similar, but like a somewhat similar rift as a mother and a daughter, and she says something to the effect of like, oh, it was such beautiful dialogue that now I'm going to butcher, but it was something to the effect of like, what if I'm not capable of handling how much I love her? Something like that. And I mean, who in real life hasn't felt that, where you love something so much that it hurts too much and you're afraid to fail it too much?
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
So
Really.
smart. All
Yeah.
right. I'll jump to the scene towards the end with Peyton. I'm just curious, after all this time, what was it like finally doing a more traditional scene with Peyton where she's playing Maddie again?
Yeah. It was great. Some of my first scenes I got to do on School Spirits were with Peyton, the flashback sequences. And she's so fantastic in the show and such a good actress. And I loved that scene. And we shot that scene like four different ways where, one was that they could both see the fisherman, and then we tried it all different kinds of ways. But I really, really like the way they landed on it and the possibilities that that opens up for Xavier moving forward.
Oh, that is so interesting because that completely changes the game for everybody's ability and what we could be in for the next season.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I mean, this all kind of leans into that. And this is like, again, another big theory question. I'm assuming you know nothing about the season to come, but, and I'm also going to probably not articulate this super well, but at this point in the show, I guess Nicole and Claire firmly believe in what happened to Maddie. Then you have Simon, who is able to see Maddie while she was on the other side. But then Xavier has this completely unique experience where, like he's had firsthand experience dying and seeing ghosts. So I guess what I'm trying to ask is how will his unique experience maybe impact how he would interact with this scenario and navigate it versus how they will?
I mean, it's so funny because you were talking earlier about how, you want to make distinct choices, but the things could change in the landscape of a TV show. But I made a very distinct choice in season 2 that Xavier's kind of he's in touch with something after his near death experience. Maybe he can't see ghosts, but he has a intuition about it, like sort of like a medium or something. So there's a lot of moments throughout the season where he's sort of like a little more privy to something in the room. And if you watch in the background, like there's a lot of moments you can see where like he's kind of like he's Simon says something to Maddie, and he looks over where Simon was talking, like stuff like that. I've completely lost my train of thought. But yeah, no, I think Xavier, has this kind of intuition, and what that means for the next season, I'm not all too sure, but I know that he wants to fight for Maddie, and I think that if it means that he can you know help her get closure with her dad, then I think that that's a really beautiful way for them to go.
Oh, I have 2 follow-up questions. I'll stick with, the relationship Maddie has with her dad, and this might not even be answerable given you said you just shot 4 versions of this, but when you play a moment like that where you have to tell her, "I just met your dad," like, what is it like finding the intention behind that line? Like, why he felt the need to, like, blurt that out and make that plain and clear, and if he plans to act on it, I guess?
Hmm. I really wish I had like a great master plan answer. Um, but I just think that that's such a good cliffhanger to that scene, a good button. Uh, yeah, and I do wonder what there's so many moments in The Way Home as well where I do wonder what the conversations are that are not on screen. Like, like when he says like, "Yeah, well, I met your dad," like the moment after that, and like the conversation that ensues. I'd love to watch that.
I
But
think about that all the time. I always try to fill in the gaps, and, like, one of my absolute favorite acting feats is when, as the audience, we don't get to experience it, but, like, let's say in the next scene, we can still feel the weight of the moment we know they had, but we didn't get to see.
yeah,
So good when that happens. The other follow-up I had thought about when you were talking about, basically how you see him interacting with, I guess, ghosts and like their presence after having died. Did that influence your work a whole lot in that scene in episode 5 when they're all having the group meeting trying to figure out what to do next? Because like you were one of my favorite people to track in that particular scene.
oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, and he really there's room for like a lot of humor and like how intently he's focused. He's trying to listen, but it's like he's millimeters off. Like we added this bit where me and Milo were talking. How funny would it be if like Xavier's really trying to like listen and be present for, but he's just staring at Wally's crotch. It's just like I like the idea of like of I don't know that concept. That whole scene, that was like one of my favorite days on set for that show. Just like getting to be in a room with everyone. Get to, work a lot with all the ghosts, and I'm such a huge fan of all of their work. So that was a great day. And,
It's so satisfying for a fan too to see you all together. And like again, I also have to imagine like similar to what we were talking about with the scene with Vaughn, where it's like the ultimate acting challenge to have to sit in a room where like technically a conversation is happening like at the same time with the same people, but they're separated by that wall, and you're having two separate experiences with the same material. Like I don't know, that's the coolest thing to make work.
yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Blocking eyeline delivery, that's something else. I'll end with, 2 questions that I guess are a little more like theory, but kind of fun.
Hmm.
Let's say that in the new season, and again, just a hypothetical, let's say that Xavier could see the ghosts at the high school. Who would you most wanna see him have a conversation with in season 4?
Hmm. Oh my gosh, that's so tough. I'm really close with Milo, so I'd love to get to do a scene with him, but I feel like Wally would not jive with
Oh.
Xavier. I actually think that Rhonda and Xavier have kind of similar like vibes. Maybe they would crack on.
You could have said any character, and I would have been like, "Yes, that is the right answer. I would like to see that."
Also, I'm just like thinking like Yuri and Xavier would probably like have a good sesh. I
Ooh,
don't know.
I
Do you know what I
also
mean? They're both kind of like stonery vibes.
Yeah, I believe that. I feel like they're somehow on the same wavelength. I was
Hmm.
also happy you started with Milo because, like, I'm in, like, a panic about where they end his storyline.
I know, me too. I have no idea where it's going, but
I want Wally to find peace, but I also, like, I need him to stay.
I need another dance number. I need more Milo. Yeah.
That's what I need to, like, manifest, more dance numbers in this show.
Yes, totally.
Alright, here's my last, like, again, theory sillier question for you. If you could have a ghost on this show steal Xavier's body so that you could play that character as an actor, who would you choose and why?
I gotta go with Wally because he's just got such a strut. Like that would be so the physicality. Xavier's so kind of closed in, and he wears clothes that are too big for him. He's like hide, and Wally would just like he'd just be out in like some gray sweats and just like that would be really fun to do.
I would honestly love to hear every actor's answer to this question on this show, but like going to bookend it actually, going back to what I said at the beginning with like me sitting there watching both your shows and being like, "Oh shit, this is the same person way too many episodes in." Like I feel like you could believably like carry the physicality and like the cadence and all that other good stuff of literally any character.
Well, I really really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I
Yeah.
need to see it. I need to see more of both shows. I'm gonna say huge, huge, huge congratulations on the way home and school spirits. So happy for you all. You should be so proud.
Thank you so much, and like such a pleasure chatting.